Gary says that if we ever get to operate on real tapeworms, he's gonna try and bring me back to life by hooking it up to electrodes. And that this is exactly the type of thing I'm worried about. If you ask me, you shouldn't go screwing around trying to bring the dead back to life. On top of it being just wrong, it could also be pretty awkward. I feel bad I never sent my great Aunt Reva a thank you card for the birthday money she gave me a few years ago. So I don't know what I'd say to her if she was back in the picture all of a sudden. Sorry, I couldn't find stamps. When I'm gone, I hope my family doesn't try and bring me back to life. Because if coming back means me having to babysit my great grandkids, I'd rather everyone just let me rest in peace. We'll be back after the movie. But I probably shouldn't worry about someone in my class making a big scientific breakthrough. Because if you need the proper equipment for that sort of thing, and my school can't even afford to give everyone the right kind of protective eyewear, so people have been bringing their own gear from home. The science lab isn't the only place in our school that doesn't have proper equipment, though. Half the laptops in the computer center have missing letters on their keyboards. And last week, I got a bad grade on a history paper when I had to use a computer that was missing all the vowels. The area of the school that was shortest on material is the library, because a lot of the shelves are empty. But it wasn't always like that. Back in September, we had a new librarian named Miss Massey, who created a graphic novel section and filled it with books she paid for with her own money. The most popular books were from the series called Commando Crocodile. And no matter how many copies she bought, Miss Massey couldn't keep them on the shelves. If you wanted to check out a copy, you had to put your name on a list that was a mile long. But I guess some parent had a problem with the way Commando Crocodile was drawn, so they filled out a complaint form. Library book challenge form. Name of book: Commando Crocodile, Tunnel Vision. Author: Matty Shub. Reason for challenge: Crocodile is not wearing pants. Apparently, the rule is that if one parent complains about a book, it has to be removed from the library. But Miss Massey came up with a compromise to keep the series on the shelves. She used a marker to draw pants on Commando Crocodile, and that seemed to satisfy the parent who made a stink about it. Crikey, this bloke just won't quit. I got a bone to pick with you, mate. Crunk. It's getting a little chocus in here. But then a new problem cropped up. Some kids had their own uncensored copies of Commando Crocodile at home, and they brought them to school. When Principal Bottoms found out about it, he confiscated their copies. So then the school started checking our bags for Commando Crocodile books at the beginning of the day, which added 15 minutes to get through the doors. But kids are smart, and some of them figured out a way to sneak the books into school anyway. It turns out that complaints are contagious because some parents suddenly noticed there were a bunch of books in the library that had animals without any clothes. So then Miss Massey had to spend her time dealing with that issue. Eventually, Miss Massey gave up and put all the books that were challenged back in the back room. And if you wanted to read them, you had to get a permission slip from a parent. After a while, there were more books in the band section than in the main library, so the school had to write to all the parents and ask them to donate books from home. But that just gave everyone an excuse to unload all the books they didn't want. If you ask me, I think the whole book banning thing backfired. A lot of people donated romance novels, and the stuff in them is a lot more inappropriate than anything in Commando Crocodile. My mom says those types of books aren't real literature, but I figure as long as a person is reading, it's a good thing. Principal Bottoms is trying to encourage kids to get better grades. So last week, he created this new program called the High Flyers Club, which is kind of like one of those airline awards programs. The basic idea is the better you do in school, the more rewards you can earn. The kids in the High Flyers clubs get all sorts of perks, like preferred seating in the classrooms with extra leg room. But that kind of stinks for the rest of us, because now there's less space for everyone else. In geometry, there wasn't a lot of room to begin with, so to make extra space for the high flyers, they had to take a whole room or row of seats. That means kids like me who used to sit in the back now have to sit on the heater. And the thing is so hot that if you stay still too long, your butt could burst into flames. So I have to shift from one cheek to another to give each a break. But extra legroom isn't the only thing we're jealous about. The high flyers get snacks and drinks during class, which they're not allowed to share with the rest of us. When they're not in class, the high flyers get to use the teacher's lounge, and I've heard the teachers aren't too thrilled with that part of the deal. I'm not too bothered that those kids can use the teacher's lounge. But I'm just jealous they get to use the bathroom in there. I heard it's a one-seater, and I really need privacy when I go. The high flyers even have their own separate entrance when they get to school, so they can breeze through security in the morning. On top of that, the high flyers get let out of school before anyone else. And even though it's only 5 minutes early, that's still plenty of time to get a head start on the bullies. Everyone wants to be a part of the High Flyers Club, but it's not easy to get in. You need to get straight A's in all your classes, and there's only a handful of kids smart enough to actually pull that off. So some kids have been cheating to try and get better grades. And they've been coming up with pretty ingenious ways to do it too. In geometry, Adam Katz wrote a bunch of equations on the back of the sticker on his water bottle. And he might have gotten away with it if he wasn't too obvious about so obvious about what he was doing. In science, a kid named Damon Fell actually made a fake arm, which he put on top of his desk during the test. Then he looked up answers on his phone underneath. He was holding underneath the desk. The only reason he got busted because he got a notification in the middle of the test. Some kids have been teaming up to cheat. A few girls in my history class wrote the names of the most important battles on the civil wars on the back of their necks. Then they moved their hair out of the way to get once the test started. And in English, a bunch of kids created this crazy system of communicating answers to each other by using Morse code with their pens. Nobody left me in on what they were up to. The cheating's become such a big problem that today the school had an assembly to deal with it. They brought in this guy named Clarence Cluster, who said he started cheating when he was in middle school, which ruined his whole life. And I think his story actually shook a few kids up. But I'm 90% sure that guy's name wasn't even Clarence Cluster, and he was just an actor the school brought in to scare us.